What's up with it, Raider Nation? It's your boy, Raider Honcho, and I'm back with a brand new video. If you're a fan of the Las Vegas Raiders and want to support this channel, please subscribe. Now, as you can see, I'm not at the crib. I'm not at the Honcho lab. I'm out here on the road shooting from a telly, so please forgive the lighting and the sound. I'm just trying to bring y'all some material, bring y'all some content, because even though I'm on the road and I'm away from the crib, the job don't stop, baby. And you already know Honcho's going to bring you what he can bring you. So in today's video, I am going to be talking about someone that everybody's been asking me about, somebody that everybody's been commenting about, tweeting about, hit me up on IG about, and that is safety Jamar Johnson out of Indiana. Now, I will admit that a few days ago, I was on live with Docs and a couple other folks, and the question came up, and we all kind of was like, whatever. But that's just because when you start doing your draft homework, and a lot of us are a little behind on draft homework just because of free agency, it's hard to know every single person in the draft, especially if they haven't had a pro day yet, and if they're not high caliber. So the more we get into our draft homework and looking at things, we start to find people, and you guys do a great job at suggesting some of the people that we should look at, and Jamar Johnson was one of them. So I think it was only right for me to do my due diligence. Now, I am not a bandwagon person who just jumps on the bandwagon when somebody says, yo, check out this guy, he's really good. I'm not really into that, so it takes me some time to do my homework and actually look at some tape. And I will tell you, I watched a lot of tape on Jamar Johnson the last 2 days because I've been in a hotel, and I was wrong. I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. This guy's a stud. This guy's a player. And let's get into some of the competition at the position, because I'm not going to just jump out the window and say the Raiders should take him in the first round, but I will compare him to Richie Grant, somebody I'm not super high on, but somebody I do believe the Raiders could target in the second round, either early or late. So let's just get right into it, all right? Now, Jamar Johnson stands at 6'1", about 200 pounds. If you look at some of the information from his pro day, I think they had him listed at actually 205. He probably beefed up for the pro day. His wingspan is 75.5. His 40 is 4.58, which we know he's not going to beat the Honcho in the race, but that's adequate speed for safety in the NFL. A little on the slower side for me, but I believe that Trayvon Merrick is somewhere around the same speed. His vertical jump is 35. His broad jump was 10.2, and his short shuttle was 4.41. Okay, he also bench pressed 225 17 times, which is a pretty good number for a DB. All right, so when you look at the measurables, he's got that, right? He's got that. But the thing about it is, right? The thing about it is when you dive deeper into what he could possibly do in the NFL, you look at some of his strengths, right? Some of his strengths are is that he's super versatile when it comes to the scheme. You can play him in the box. You can play him single high, which we're looking for, single high safety. He's also an experienced corner. I think he was also a starter at cornerback, starter at safety. So he has that experience. To me, one of the things that stands out most to me when I watch film on Jamar Johnson is that he has great eyes. Okay, now, I ain't talking about, oh, he has dreamy eyes, or when you look into his eyes, I see the sunset. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about as a defensive back, you have to have great eyes, and he has great eyes as far as diagnosing patterns, diagnosing routes, diagnosing plays. When he sees the same play over and over, he knows how to diagnose that. I think he just has good eyes throughout the routes, okay? Throughout the route tree, he can decipher what a receiver is doing, and I think that's super important on the next level, okay? He plays with good reads, positioning. He's very instinctive. He's rangy. He just has smoothness to his game. Like when I'm comparing him to Richie Grant, the thing that stands out a lot to me is that he's a lot more polished than a Richie Grant, all right? Richie Grant is good, but he's super raw in his skill set and in the positioning. Jamar Johnson is just way more polished than Richie Grant at this point, okay? His ball skills are above average. It's not normal. And I'm sorry if I'm looking down, but I'm not home, so I have all my information on my laptop for me to kind of give you guys some of the bullet points that I wanted to talk about. He has great body control when he's making plays. When you talk about body control, you're like, Honcho, what are you talking about? When you look at somebody like Jonathan Abram, he has very poor body control, okay? Once he's going one way, he's kind of stuck going that way. So that's what I mean about body control, and you kind of need to have that, all right? You kind of need to have that. And one of the games that stood out to me the most was when they were playing Ohio State, and he was playing against Lance Fields, I believe. Oh, not Lance Fields, Justin Fields, I'm bugging. He did have 2 interceptions, and when you're talking about one of the better quarterbacks in the draft, and you were able to pick him off twice, it kind of speaks to your ability to read the plays, kind of play the quarterback, and that's what I mean when I say he has great eyes. I think he can kind of play the quarterback, right? He can diagnose things, run past very quickly. He can diagnose routes really quickly, and he also can set the quarterback up. I mean, this is chess, not checkers, okay? So when you're playing defensive back and you see the post coming and you see the seam, you might jump the post just to make the quarterback think the seam is open, and you want to take away that seam from him. And if you watch some of the games, he was able to do that very easily. Okay, he can bait the quarterback into doing what you want him to do, and I think as a safety, you need to do that. Okay, he has very good feel when he's in the space. All right, short zones, anywhere he's at, he has good field. He always has good positioning, and he's very rarely out of position. And I think that's something that goes underrated as a safety. It's just being out of position. And this guy is very rarely out of position, and he's just a ball hawk. It's not an accident that he's always around the play. Like, he just knows how to play football, okay? So those are a lot of his strengths to me. Those are a lot of his strengths. The only weaknesses I really see is, like I said, his top end speed. It's not that great, and his tackling is not that great. But honestly, as a free safety in the cover 3 scheme, the way we're going to play with Gus, tackling from there is not the #1 priority. #1 priority is being able to play center field, and I think Jamar Johnson can do that with the best of them, without a doubt in my mind. Like I said, because he's rarely out of position. He does need to learn how to wrap up and tackle. He does that little DB ankle biting stuff that I used to do. I was a professional at it. I was so good at low bridging and tackling low that my coach used to tell me to teach the other DBs how to do it. I didn't play around. I was diving straight through your legs. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that Jamar Johnson is starter caliber in this league. I just don't know if he's starter caliber on day 1. And that's the difference between Trayvon Merrick and every other safety in the draft, is that I think Trayvon Merrick day 1 can be a starter in the NFL. So, like I said, we looked at some of the measurables. Now when we go over to Richie Grant, right? We go over to Richie Grant, and we try to look at some of his measurables. Richie Grant is a lot shorter than I thought he was. I thought he was 6'1". I think he measured at like 5'11 and a half, 197 pounds. His wingspan is 77. He ran a 4.5 in the 40, similar to Jamar Johnson, so their speed is about the same. His bench press is actually only 12 reps at 225, so he's a little weaker. When you talk about athletically, I think they match up similar. I think Richie Grant's a little lankier, which is kind of weird because he's shorter. But Jamar Johnson's put together well for a DB. Richie Grant is put together well too. It's just a little thin for me right now. And obviously, when you look at the bench press of only 12, he's a little weaker than Jamar Johnson, a little weaker than I would like. Now, some of the strengths that Richie Grant does play with is that his demeanor on the field is somebody who wants to make a play. Whenever Richie Grant is out there, he's looking to impact the game. He's looking to make a play, and that's what you want from your safety, right? I mean, he had 10 interceptions over his last 34 games, 5 career forced fumbles. This guy knows how to make plays, okay? He struggles a little bit to me. Like, one of his main weaknesses to me is that he does struggle in identifying or playing in coverage, and I think that's not going to be beneficial for the Raiders if we're looking for somebody to come in, step in day 1 and be able to play the position. He also, his hip fluidity is not all that great. Him changing direction in space is not all that good as well. He's just not as fluid as Jamar Johnson or the other top safeties in the draft to me, which you know are Trayvon Merrick and Darius Washington. They're just a little more fluid, okay? He also doesn't have that recovery speed to where if he does misdiagnose a route, he's not able to make up that speed, make up that distance like some other DBs can. We always call it in phase, out of phase. Richie Grant is a great player in phase, but when he's out of phase, he's going to struggle because he doesn't have that burst or that quickness to make up the distance that he lost when he gets out of phase. And another glaring thing that separates these two from me, Jamar Johnson and Richie Grant, is their ability to get off the blocks. Jamar Johnson, although he's not the greatest tackler, he gets off blocks like no other DBs in this draft. I mean, he's really good at getting off the blocks, and that's where Richie Grant is going to struggle. Richie Grant is not good getting off blocks, especially downfield. Like, he's just not good at getting off blocks. Also, I think the tape doesn't lie in the sense of you can see a guy's motor. I think Jamar Johnson has a higher motor than Richie Grant as well. Richie Grant is one of those players that when the play is backside, he doesn't overly extend himself or exhaust himself to run that play down. I don't think that's going to matter too much in his draft stock, but that's just something I noticed watching the two players, okay? I think that I think Richie Grant needs to do a better job at at a safety position as far as like making everybody aware of what's going on the field at that time. And I think that's very important for a safety to have, is that extension of your defensive coordinator. I think people like Trayvon Merrick, Jamar Johnson, Darius Washington, Elijah Molden, I think all those guys are intellectual enough to be that extension. I think Richie Grant struggles in making sure everybody is on the same page from that safety position. It's almost like a middle linebacker, right? Your middle linebacker needs to know what the front seven needs to be. Your free safety needs to know how to line up the secondary. And I just think that that's a weakness for him, okay? Now, when you look at more of the numbers from a Jamar Johnson, and it's kind of crazy. Out of 406 coverage snaps in Indiana, he was targeted 44 times, gave up 0 touchdowns, and had 7 picks. I mean, this guy's a player, man. This guy's an absolute stud, and I apologize to the Raider Nation for not knowing about him sooner, but I appreciate y'all for bringing him to my attention. And even though PFF might have shot him up to the number 2 safety in the draft, I'm not going to do that yet. And stick around. Later this week, hopefully I can have my big board set up for you so you know exactly where I'm positioning all these players. But I will say that without a doubt, Jamar Johnson has jumped into my top 5 safeties in this draft. Because he's just a player. The one thing I do think is a red flag for me is his attitude, as far as like, he's so competitive and so fiery that, I mean, I'm a Michigan fan. I remember the Michigan game where he threw a punch and got thrown out the game. So I know that he has it in him to be that spark plug, that wild dog, and like, you need that, but you have to be able to harness that. And I think Gus Bradley can do that. As far as him versus Richie Grant, look, I wasn't sold on Richie Grant in the beginning anyway. He's my number 3, maybe number 4 safety in the draft. If you watch any of my videos, Richie Grant is not a guy that I'm jumping out the window for. You know, I like Molden, I like a Darius, and I love Trayvon Merrick. So, but I do think that Richie Grant is a viable pick for us, especially late in the 2nd round. But I think the emergence of Jamar Johnson and his draft stock, it makes it easier for us, because now a lot of us was feeling like that the Raiders might have to trade up into the 2nd round to get Richie Grant. But I think Jamar Johnson might be there at 48 because he's still under the radar as of now. I mean, it's only, April 4th, so that can change by draft night. But I do think that another emergence of another safety does help us and how we want to play the game. If we want to go right tackle in the 1st round, safety in the 2nd, we should be able to get a guy who can make a difference. Now, both of these guys are going to need some experience as far as a veteran leader in the locker room and at the position. So I still think it's imperative that the Raiders go get a Malik Hooker or a Trey Boston just to have that bridge. But if you're asking me, Jamar Johnson versus Richie Grant, I'm going to tell you like this. Jamar Johnson is a little more polished than Richie Grant. And I think his ceiling is just a little higher. I think his ceiling is higher. I think his floor is higher. I mean, damn it. At the end of the day, Jamar Johnson, to me, right now is a better prospect and a better fit for the Las Vegas Raiders at the free safety position. So that's what it is. You get down in the comments and let me know what you think. If you like the video, please like the video. If you like the content on this channel, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out RaiderHoncho.com and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at RaiderHoncho. So that's what it is, man. That's all I got for you today. Get down in the comments and let me know what you think. Is Richie Grant better than Jamar Johnson? Would you take Jamar Johnson over Richie Grant? Let me know in the comments. And until the next time, Raider Honcho out.